And I call the member for Jagga Jagga.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. On Anzac Day this year, we passed that moment when exactly 100 years ago our young Anzacs stepped off the boats under a breaking Gallipoli dawn. That moment, and the many terrible ones to follow, are woven into our national identity because of what they were to reveal: the acts of courage, sacrifice, mateship and heartbreak. On that morning in 1915, this young army of volunteer soldiers were committed to an impossible objective along those chalky cliffs and ridges. For the next 8 months, that place would be their mission and their home. It was here that the digger came into being. Of course, it was a tactical blunder that put them there, one totally beyond their control, and the 8-month bloody stalemate that followed was no military gain. The Gallipoli campaign proved to be a prelude to the much larger tragedy of First World War between 1914 and 1918, with a shocking loss of life and dreadful injuries. 100 years on, across Australia, in our cities, suburbs and towns, people of all walks of life gathered in record numbers to remember them. Importantly, we saw the next generation of young people take ownership of our commemorations like never before. In my electorate of Jagga Jagga, a series of milestone projects were supported under the ANZAC Centenary Grants program announced by Prime Minister Gillard in April 2012. My electorate committee has worked very hard to ensure that every resident has the chance to engage in our commemorations through to 2018. And I'd like tonight to thank all the members of the electorate committee, including Jeff Mawkes from Watsonia RSL, Bill Telfer, Greensborough RSL, Rob Winther from the Austin Repatriation Hospital, Fred Cullen, the Ivanhoe RSL, and those that supported the work of the committee: Nillumbik Shire Council, Banyule Council, the Australian Army Signals Historical Foundation at Simpson Army Barracks, as well as our local historical societies. A very special thanks must go to President Bill McKenna of the Montmorency Eltham RSL. For 2 years, Bill has worked closely with each of our local RSLs, councils, local schools and my office, and I'd like to particularly thank one of my electorate staff, Anthony Kenny. Bill hosted planning meetings, knocked on doors and tied everything together. We got some tremendous projects delivered, including a commemorative ceramic mosaic project depicting the human stories Gallipoli, which will be at the Heidelberg Repatriation Hospital, a project to digitise precious film negatives from World War I Army signallers at the Simpson Barracks in my electorate, an innovative project to install interpretive signage at the Kangaroo Ground Memorial Tower, an extension to the War Memorial Cenotaph in Eltham, and the Jagga Jagga School's ANZAC Centenary commemorative service led by local school students, and it was held at Petrie Park, the home of the Montmorency Eltham RSL. This event was supported by over 1,200 students from 6 local schools, and I'd like to thank them all: Loyola College, Eltham College, Catholic Ladies College, Montmorency Secondary School, Bundoora Secondary and Ivanhoe Girls Grammar. At Petrie Park that day, we saw inspiring young future leaders from each of these schools play their part to spread a strong message of peace in our community. The role of event MC was provided by James Hone from Montmorency Secondary College, our college captain, and an extremely impressive young leader who steered the event through to conclusion, and I extend my thanks to him for the central role that he played. Campbell Wilson, also from Montmorency Secondary College, offered a very haunting performance of Flowers of the Forest on the bagpipes. Loyola College provided the catafalque and flag-bearing party. Sean Donoghue from Eltham College sang an extraordinary rendition of Amazing Grace and also led their boys' choir in the New Zealand national anthem. And Sean sang the first verse of that anthem in Maori. Many commented on how powerful Sean's voice was for such a young man, and I know we'll hear many more great things from him in the future. Eltham College also led the singing of the Australian national anthem. Keisha Healy and Malik Situ from Bandura Secondary College led the ANZAC Requiem, which is always, of course, a very moving moment. The Ivanhoe Girls Grammar School Chamber Choir sang a beautiful rendition of Here You Lie, Side by Side. The Catholic Ladies College led the Lord's Prayer, and Laura Lazara from that great school offered the ode, And Lest We Forget. The Heidelberg Brass Band provided the last post to cap off a very inspiring and stirring event. This very successful event and the rest that will follow will help to spread the message of peace, that war is never something to be glorified, but that we take this opportunity, and will continue to do so, to acknowledge the sacrifice made by so many. As a community, we must always be working towards enhancing peace, understanding and tolerance. Importantly, these new projects will help shed light on our local ANZAC stories and, where possible, reveal new ones, because our community has its own fascinating stories to tell. We have a local historian and resident, Terry Phillips, a man who's done an enormous amount of local research, who has records that indicate that the last man off Gallipoli came from Greensborough. And one of the most prominent works of art commemorating fallen soldiers from the First World War in the Australian War Memorial, Meningate at Midnight, was painted by William Longstaff, an Eltham resident. William Longstaff served in the Australian Remount Unit in the Middle East, where his commanding officer was none other than Banjo Patterson. These are just two fascinating snippets of many local stories that will be told and retold throughout the time that we have through to 2018. Many of these projects will be commemorated, and of course many events will follow. Once again, I'd just like to thank all of those, particularly the people from our local RSLs, and Bill McKenna especially, for all the work they've done to make this a very, very special time for all of our local residents. Thank you.